What's up, guys? How y'all doing? So, Super Duper began at Concord in North Carolina, and we were provided with a little bit of everything. And I'm going to do just one video this time, and let's just get this all underway here. Now, remember, guys, subscribe. If you think that I'm worth listening to, I got quite a bit to discuss. I know I watched Cooksey's recaps of the 450 class and the 250 class at Super Duper in Concord, North Carolina, or Charlotte, if you want to say it, if you want to use that. But remember, guys, subscribe if you think that I'm worth listening to, or if you just want to see some more of my other games, and I will have some more up by the time this video is up. But in the meantime, as I said, subscribe. Let's get into this. I'm going to put up my banner here. I'm going to start with the 450 class this time, but with the disgusting news. Look at the third one on my banner. Penalty given to Carter Gray. Now, I did say I was starting with the 450 class, but this I'm going to address. But I am addressing the elephant in the room here. Okay, now, during the 65 race, Carter Gray won the race fair and square, but he was given the most idiotic penalty of all by the AMA because he was docked 2 positions for jumping the finish line jump. I mean, really, if you look at the AMA, do you ever think that they probably have senior citizens or just complete idiots on their staff? Because really, if you're going to change the rules of the game like that, if I'm Carter Gray's family, I'm making a video and appealing this penalty and airing all of the AMA's dirty laundry when it comes to penalties. Now, for Carter Gray, he's a 12-year-old kid. We all knew that he won that race fair and square. There's no two ways about it. But if you're going to dock Carter Gray 2 positions, if he didn't get, for not even getting the memo that you couldn't jump the finish line jump like 10 minutes before the start of the 65 race, what kind of idiots do you have on staff? Or do you have a bunch of senior citizens who probably don't know jack about this sport? Because really, if you're going to just change the rules of the game like that, you should get out of this and we should find a new sanctioning body. But then again, there probably aren't a lot of other sanctioning bodies out there that would probably take this series. This is a sport we all love. And when Carter Gray on a 65 clears the finish line jump, you know that kid's got a future. And you look at last year, the guys on the 65s were clearing the triples at Concord, at ZMAX Raceway. Really? Why would you penalize Carter Gray when he probably never got the memo, or at worst, probably didn't even know at all, or at worst, no one was made aware that this rule change came 10 minutes before the start of the game, before the start of the race, I should say. So, but guys, remember, Carter Gray, I'm going to keep this kid fresh in my mind because this guy reminds me, I remember when Justin Barcia was on Honda's new commercial in when they were advertising their 150 around the mid to late 2000s, around 2007. Okay. And I was like, I couldn't wait for this kid to turn pro. And so far, he was delivering until his career kind of went every which way. And now it looks like Barcia's back on the upswing again. Excuse me. Now for the 450 class, Jett Lawrence didn't miss much. I'll tell you what, Jett Lawrence, this guy's got a lot of talent, and Honda is going to be crazy to let the guy go. Let me tell you, because I guarantee you, if Hunter Lawrence goes, if Jett Lawrence goes, Hunter Lawrence is going to leave with him. Because those two bros are probably the best addition to the sport since probably Chad Reed. Okay? Now, as far as the racing is concerned, Jett Lawrence really made a bold statement times 10, okay? The first one was when he came back in that second race after Eli Tomac led the first moto coast to coast. But in the second race, I kind of thought, actually in the first race, when Jett Lawrence sat down for second, I thought he was going to go for the overall, which I thought was a smart move. And while that was a really hard track to pass on, that was also the kind of track where if you made a mistake, you really paid for it. And look at what happened with Justin Barcia and Jason Anderson. They didn't even race that night. Okay? So, as far as the second race is concerned, Eli Tomac was leading, and it looked like he was going to go 1-1 on a track that he looked like he was back to the old Eli Tomac, theoretically. But Jett Lawrence came through and uncorked a new line with a double into the sand section. And when I saw Jett Lawrence do that, there was a part of me that thought Eli Tomac was a sitting duck. I don't care how long he'd been out or how much test time he got. Eli Tomac was pretty much a sitting duck, and I was right. But I'll tell you this, I was actually surprised that Eli Tomac did not pick up on that double in the sand section that Jett Lawrence was doing in the second race, because that was where Eli Tomac really lost that race. And if this is what we're going to expect, and if what Jett Lawrence did is a prelude of what's to come, Eli Tomac is a sitting duck in this series, and he is going to be lucky to even see the winner's circle in an overall win, let me tell you. Because if Supercross was any indication, along with what we saw, that's going to be the case for Eli Tomac in his final year, because he's still not riding like the Eli Tomac of old before that Achilles injury at Denver last year. Now, in the second race, Chase Sexton looked like he was back to his old self, especially after he didn't look that great in the first moto. And did I think that Sexton was going to overtake them both? So. If he did overtake them, Jett Lawrence and Eli Tomac would have had to make really big mistakes, or at least tangle together and crash. But they didn't do that. Now, Sexton did have a bad crash in practice, and that did affect him pretty much all day long. But I thought in the second moto, he got it together, and he was riding like the Chase Sexton of old. Okay? Now, another thing you don't see on this banner, Cooper Webb was docked 6 positions for cutting the sand section in the first moto. So that 8th place he got in Moto 1 became a 14th. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because I think that's a pretty harsh penalty. If it was probably 1 position or 2 positions, maybe even 3, I could probably live with that. But 6 positions? No, that's too harsh. And I know that back in the day, Canada, they did that on they would penalize a guy 5 positions for jumping on a yellow flag, or 10 positions on a red cross flag. And this was back around the mid-2000s that I had seen on the Guaranteed MX YouTube channel when I started rewatching the Canadian series just so I could get caught up with what I missed. And that was during the era when Jean-Sebastian Waugh was winning his titles. But another point, but anyway, as far as this one goes, Jett Lawrence, I don't know about you guys, but Jett Lawrence looked like he pulled a Kevin Windham when Kevin Windham came back for the 2003 Nationals. Because the way Jett Lawrence rode, that mimicked a lot of how Kevin Windham looked at Glenn Helen in 2003 in his comeback season. Granted, Windham did crash in the first moto and handed the first moto to Ricky Carmichael on that 252 stroke. And then Wyndham looked a lot better in the second moto. And although Carmichael ran him down, he served notice that he was going to be a thorn in Ricky's side that year. And if what Jett Lawrence did at Concord is any indication, Eli Tomac is going to see Jett Lawrence as that thorn in his side. Now I am not going to doubt that Eli Tomac is going to be lucky to see the winner's circle in an overall win. But like I said earlier, if what we saw at Concord is any indication, Eli Tomac's going to be really, really lucky to even see the winner's circle in a heat race with Jett Lawrence in it. Okay? Let that little inkling stick in your mind for now. Okay? Now for the 250s. Haiden Deegan sweeps. Possible back-to-back super motocross titles. I'm not going to doubt it now because the way that Deegan looked, he was uncorking that quad in that rhythm section, and not a lot of the other 250 guys were doing that. And looking at Haiden Deegan rise, he's kind of like a 250F version of Ricky Carmichael back when Carmichael was going through that perfect season in 1998. Because Ricky at that time was doing things that the 250 guys were doing. Well, Haiden Deegan is doing the same things that some of the 450 guys are doing. And that rhythm section was the telltale section. And that was also the section where RJ Hampshire had crashed out of the first moto. Now, obviously, Hampshire is a guy who doesn't cheat you on effort. But that moment was one of those moments where I thought that Hampshire really really took a lot of his drive away from at least getting in the top three. But as far as Deegan is concerned, the guy's riding like he can't be touched. And a lot of the guys that I kind of had a lookout for, like Ty Masterpool and Chance Hymas, were nowhere to be found. Both of those guys had not so good starts, and that was a track where if you got a bad start, you paid for it dearly. Not going to lie to you. We head to Texas next. I've already seen the track for that, and it looks like that is going to be another track where the start is going to be just about the entire race. It's going to dictate who wins the races. So as far as Deegan is concerned, would I have picked him to win this? Probably. And of course, like I said, I had it between him and Tom Vial for the SMX title. But other guys really showed me something. Levi Kitchen showed me something. And I got to say that up until Deegan got up to second after that bad start, I thought he was going to just sit down and just let Levi Kitchen have it. But he pulled a Jeremy McGrath where he concedes nothing. That's the thing. Now, Haiden Deegan's a real welcome addition to this sport. I didn't have any doubts that he was going to have a fruitful career, maybe even have a lot more one-ups on Dad Brian Deegan, at least in terms of racing anyway. But as far as the Metal Militia is concerned, that's where Deegan or Brian really made it big. So kudos to Brian for that. At least I'll give him credit there. So I'm definitely looking for those guys that I decided to have on my radar to come out swinging in the double points round and then the triple points round at Las Vegas Raceway. So hopefully we'll see a good race, maybe even 3 different winners in the 250 class, at least in the overall anyway. So you really got to be on your toes. And if you're going to have a bad race, this is the one to do it in because this is just regular point structure. Now, as far as other guys go, if there was another guy that I thought would have had a better showing, it was Tom Vial for sure. I thought that this was the kind of track where he would excel on, but that really boiled down to the starts. And Also want to give a little shout out to Jalek Swoll because his day pretty much ended before the first turn of race 1. And it turns out he's okay. And he will be back for Texas. So hopefully Jalek will come out with a chip on his shoulder and maybe even get on the box. But that's a bike. But on the Triumph, I think it's going to be at least another 2 or 3 more years before Triumph proves that they're going to be a serious contender. But of course, you just can't base the guy's years or the team's years just how the riders are doing, especially when you got some good guys like Jalek Swoll or even some veterans like they had Joey Savacci for motocross, but not anymore. So you just got to give them time, which is what I'm doing. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. And remember, subscribe. We'll see you all for Texas this coming weekend.